bless my soul, and it continues to bless my soul. Whew. Oh, wait, oh, yeah. What having afternoon tomorrow? Do we have an afternoon?
Today?
No, ma'am, no. Well, tomorrow, she's walking in, we've been waiting on her, she's walking in.
Yes, we do have an afternoon.
Come on up, sir.
Just one, two. You pre-trial.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is case number 3450490 people versus Elijah Warner Smith. Defendant is charged with assault or assault and battery. Today is the date set for trial. Appearances, please.
For the record, Your Honor, this is on behalf of the people. I have my officer in charge, president of the court, will stand behind to my right. Would you like her appearance on the record, Your Honor?
Please.
Detective Carmela Walker.
All right.
For the record, Your Honor, Janice Stevenson appearing on behalf of Mr. Elijah Smith. Your Honor, Mr. Smith does have a slight hearing problem. Mr. Smith, could you please tell the judge your full name?
Elijah Warner Smith.
All right, I'm gonna lock up. Courtroom at 11:04. The last case was scheduled to be. Somebody else should. All right, today is the day set for, trial. Are people ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, the people are ready to proceed.
Is defense ready to proceed?
It's just ready to proceed.
Are there any preliminary matters before we proceed, sir? You may be seated.
Judge, at this time, the people will make a motion to sequestration. We have, the session of my officer in charge is present.
How many witnesses on behalf of you?
There are two, Your Honor, and one is an officer.
All right, Ms. Stevenson.
Concur in the people's motion for sequestration, Your Honor.
All right, and the motion is granted, it's mutual. Are there any witnesses on behalf of the defense in the hall outside of, I'm not talking about your client?
There's a possible witness, and I have spoken with her about not viewing these proceedings, Your Honor.
All right, so the motion for sequestration is granted, it's mutual. With the exception of the officer in charge, everyone else must remain in the hall and cannot view the proceedings. I am live streaming. Anything further?
Judge, can I just have my officer tell my witnesses real quick?
Yes. Yeah. But did you check and see if the jury trial has been used?
I've got a vote for Albert.
It's already dismissed, it shouldn't even be on the docket, didn't I dismiss it? Yeah. It shouldn't be on the docket, it was dismissed.
Okay.
All right, we'll be making an opening statement.
Very briefly, Your Honor.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Your Honor, this case comes before the court from an incident that happened on July 29th of 2023. Your Honor, the people have the victim, the alleged victim, Ms. Lynise Thomas Greer, who will testify to the court as to what happened on July 29th of 2023, Your Honor. The court will hear about Ms. Thomas Greer visiting a retirement party. And that's when she came into contact with the defendant, Mr. Elijah Smith. During that contact, Ms. Thomas Greer testified that she did walk up to Mr. Smith and ask him for an apology from a previous incident that happened before the day in question, Your Honor. There was a verbal dispute between the parties, and that's when, according to Ms. Thomas Greer, Mr. Smith choked her and grabbed her by the arms. Your Honor, you'll hear the testimony from the officer who took the report at the 7th precinct Corporal Williams. And Corporal Williams will testify as to his contact with the complaining witness after this alleged incident happened. Your Honor, by testimony and, evidence, submitted by the people to the court, the people are hoping that the court finds the defendant guilty of one count of assault that is. Thank you.
On behalf of the defense,
Thank you, Your Honor. We believe the evidence is gonna show that on the date of this incident, the complaining witness and the defendant were at a retirement party, as the people have indicated, that while the defendant was not consuming alcohol, the complaining witness was consuming alcohol, Your Honor. The complaining witness, was very upset with the defendant, Your Honor, from an incident that occurred between the two a couple of months before this incident, Your Honor, and that the complaining witness confronted the defendant about this incident, Your Honor. We believe that, in her anger and due to the consumption of alcohol, the complaining witness did have a weapon in her hand, that there was physical contact against the complaining witness initiated by the defendant, Your Honor, but that was only to protect himself from being assaulted by the complaining witness with this metal staple gun that she had in her hand, Your Honor. And we're gonna ask at the close of the proofs that the court find that the people have not met their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Elijah Smith made an assault and battery in the date and time in question.
please make all your first wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the people would like to call Ms. Lynise Thomas Greer to the stand.
Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may proceed. Ms. Ritter.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Thomas Greer.
Good morning.
Ms. Thomas Greer, can you state your name for the court, please?
Juanita Thomas Greer.
Thank you. And Ms. Thomas Greer, I want to take you back to July 29th of 2023. Do you recall that day?
Yes,
And on that day, were you at the location of 2160 Mount Elliott Street?
yes,
And is that the city of Detroit?
yes,
And is that within the county of Wayne?
yes.
And what is located at that address, Ms. Thomas Greer?
That is, it's almost like a resale shop, slash, recreational like area for events party that Valerie Robinson will have like events.
Okay. And, what was going on at that location on this day in question?
It was a gathering, that she does annually, like a get together for retirees that retire from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
They get together.
And when you say she, who are you referring to? I'm
I'm
sorry.
referring to Valerie Robinson.
Okay. And, were you attending an event on that day?
Yes,
And what type of event was it?
just to get together for the retirees where they come together and to celebrate.
Okay. And did something happen on that day at that location that brought you to court today?
Yes.
Can you start by telling the court what happened when you first arrived at this location?
So I arrived, well, the event started, earlier, during the day, but I didn't arrive until, like 5:30 that evening.
Okay, and did you come alone or were you with someone?
I had came alone and, my husband had met me and then a friend of mine had met me there.
Okay, okay, so what happened when you first arrived at the party?
When I arrived, I had, just came in and, I had, greeted, Valerie and just people that I knew, Crystal Hall, a lot of the people that were there, I really didn't know because these were people that they had worked with. Like Crystal's sisters, I knew them, I spoke.
Okay, about how many people were at this, event when you arrived, if you recall?
I would say it was about, could have been around about 60 to 80 people. And it could have been more, you know, that probably were there left by the time that I had got there.
Okay, now how do you know Miss Valerie Roberts?
I met Valerie Robinson through Crystal Hall around 6.5 years ago.
Okay, and, is there a familiar relationship between you and Ms. Hall or you and Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Are you family members?
No, well, we're friends.
Friends, okay,
Yeah.
so you all are friends,
Yes,
okay,
well, we were.
okay. And, what happened when you, saw Ms. Robinson and Ms. Hall at the party?
Like normal, we would just engage, we would hug, we would talk, there would be vendors, you know, there, you know, just our normal things where we sit. There was food, there was beer, there was, wine, that was, beer, that was there. Music, entertainment, which is Valerie, I believe her nephew was, the DJ
Okay,
at the time.
okay, so what happened next?
So at 6 o'clock, my husband arrived, and I say 6:05, my girlfriend, Barbara, had arrived, Barbara Ward. So I met them, I had them come to the table under the tent that I was sitting at alongside Crystal's sister, which was Melba, Tanya, and I can't think of their last names. And then a few other people that, you know, I don't know their name.
Okay, and what happened after that?
So at 6:30, Stan had to leave because he is a performer on the Detroit Princess boat.
Who's there?
My husband,
Okay.
Stanley Greer. So I walked him to the front gate.
Okay,
And at that time, Eli, which is, I didn't know his name, his full name, but that's Elijah Smith.
okay, and the person you're referring to as Elijah Smith, you see that person in the courtroom?
Yes,
Can you point that person out and identify what he's wearing?
he has on a black, sports coat. Sitting next to the attorney there.
Judge, may the record reflect the identification of the defendant, Mr. Elijah Smith?
The record reflects the identification of Elijah Smith.
Thank you. And what happened when you encountered Mr. Smith?
So he was coming in, he spoke to Stan, and they, you know, just had some words, you know, chit chat. Stan, as he was leaving out, we just gave each other, you know, a little smack on the kiss. I walked back to the table with Barb. We had, a glass of wine. I had a cooler with me, at the time, a small cooler that I had some shrimps inside. So I don't really eat chicken, I eat pork or beef. So I bring a lot of my own stuff.
Okay.
with me at times.
Okay, now, I wanna go back just a little bit, Ms. Thomas Greer, do you know Mr. Smith personally?
No,
Okay. Did you, know Mr. Smith before the day in question?
I know him through Valerie Robinson. So we all met, when I say we, meaning our friend group,
Okay,
meaning, Crystal, Jesus Choice, and then the others that, we associate, with, hung out with Valerie around the same time, so about maybe a year and a half
okay.
prior.
Now, you said you met Mr. Smith through, Ms. Robinson. Do you know if there's a relationship of some sort between the two parties?
Valerie and Eli, yes, they're dating.
Okay. And at the time of this incident, do you know if they were dating at that time?
Yes.
Okay, okay, and then, what happens next, Ms. Thomas Greer?
So around, I would say like a 6:45, I received a phone call from my son. And there's an event going on at the Shane Park at that time.
Okay, and what happens after you
So
receive a phone call?
Well, he wasn't able to, attend the event as far as, because they had enough, I guess like workers there. So he needed me to pick him up. So, and I remember this vividly, so I asked Barb to ride with me. So I went to go pick him up, so I walked over, so Crystal was under the tent, because she was, administering the wine and the beer.
Okay, so, at any point did you come into contact with Mr. Elijah Smith?
No, not at that time.
Okay, at what point did you come into contact with Mr. Smith?
When I returned, back at the event, so it was at 8:30, so it was like after 9, so like around like 9:30.
Okay, and what happened when you came into contact with Mr. Smith?
So I was about to leave, I was waiting on my husband to arrive at the event after he got done with the boat. And he was playing cards with Machisa Choice and I believe his sister and, a friend of hers, the boy, I don't know what the relationship was. So I walked over, so Valerie and Crystal had just left the table that I was sitting at.
Okay, and what happened when you walked over to the table?
So they had got up from the table, so I walked over to, Crystal had walked back under the table.
Ma'am, what happened with you when you given a, I want, try to answer her question.
I am.
No, ma'am, try to answer her question. How did you come in contact with Mr. Smith at the event?
I'm trying.
How did you come in contact with Mr. Smith at the event?
So it was about 9:40 when I was leaving the event. I got up from the table and I was walking over to Choice. And that was, we call him Choice, Machisa Choice, to say bye. Him and Mr. Smith were standing there.
Okay, what happened next?
So I tell Choice I'm getting ready to leave. I said, bye. And then I asked Mr. Smith if I could just talk to him for a moment.
Okay, without telling me, what was said, what happened after you said that to Mr. Smith?
Well, I asked him, did he owe me?
She said, without telling her what was said, what happened?
I apologize. So I walked toward Crystal underneath the tent. I set my purse down on a cooler to grab my keys so that I can leave. And Mr. Smith grabbed me from behind and started choking me.
Okay, so let's just step back a little bit. So was there a conversation before this physical, assault happened?
Yes.
Okay, without telling me what was said in the conversation, what was the nature of the conversation?
The nature of the conversation was trying to address a prior situation,
Between whom
Mr. Smith
and who else?
and myself.
Okay, so before this day in question, there was a prior incident between you and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, and when you approached him, you were trying to address that situation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and did Mr. Smith, I guess, comply with your request of trying to address the situation?
No.
Okay, and then after that, is it your testimony that that's when the physical assault happened?
Yes.
Okay, and then when you say, you testify he grabbed you by the neck?
He grabbed me from behind and started choking me and trying to throw me to the ground
Okay, now where were you when this, took place?
on the property, and underneath the tent.
Okay, were there other people around when this took place?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall who was around?
Yes.
Okay, about how many people were around when this took place?
2 others.
And who were those two other people?
Crystal Hall and Machista Choice.
Okay, and then what happened after Mr. Smith grabbed you from behind around your neck?
I was trying to get him loose, break away and, asking, Crystal and Choice, why are they standing there and allowing him to do this?
Okay, and then what happened after that, incident occurred?
Still trying to break it loose, and not fall to the ground. He pushed me into a partition.
Okay, and then what happened after he pushed you?
Once he pushed me into a partition, I turned around and I raised my hand up and was coming toward him, and Crystal stepped in the middle.
Okay, and then at some point, did you call the police?
No,
Okay, did you have any contact with police after this incident?
I did.
How did you have contact with the police?
On the following day, it was that Sunday,
Okay, how did you have contact with the police?
I went down there to follow on charges.
Okay, and when you say you went down there, where did you go?
To the, Detroit precinct.
Okay, and did you speak with somebody when you got to the precinct?
Yes.
Do you recall who you spoke with?
Detective, Walker.
Okay, and did you speak with anybody else at the precinct to make a report about this incident?
I believe that's the young person that I can't remember the,
Okay, that's fine. And did anything else happen after the incident?
outside of the most recent,
Well, that's a bad question. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Did you do anything after the incident?
outside of going to my doctor's appointments and my injuries that I sustained.
Okay, so, let's talk about the injuries that you sustained. What injuries did you sustain with this incident?
Well, I've been having, headaches and.
What injuries did you sustain? Were they
My
any physical?
shoulder,
Okay,
and then I'm having headaches that I'm dealing with. So I'm doing physical therapy for my shoulder. That, and I have my paperwork, my doctor's paperwork and stuff for that.
okay, did you seek any medical attention after this incident?
I did,
When?
immediately the following day.
Okay, and where did you seek medical attention?
I went to the, urgent care, in Warren, Michigan.
Okay, Judge, may I approach? You may. And I'm sorry, what did she say she went to?
What? Urgent care? Hoover urgent, thank you. You're welcome.
No, I'll hand you some documents in this time of year. And, just look over those documents and just look up when you're done. There's two documents that I handed you, I'm sorry. Okay, so Ms. Thomas Greer, do you recognize the two documents that I handed you?
Yes,
Okay, what do you recognize those documents to be?
this is the, from when I went to the urgent care.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
When I went to the urgent care.
Okay,
When I seen the
Okay.
injuries that I had.
okay, and what day did you, visit that urgent care?
And this was on July 30th, and the time shows 5:36 p.m.
Okay, and looking at those documents, are those the same documents that you turned over to the police?
Yes,
And had those documents, from your knowledge, been changed, altered, or, falsely depicted in any way?
no,
Judge, at this time, people would like to admit people's proposals exhibit two to evidence. Any objection?
No objection.
People's proposed exhibit 2 is admitted as people's exhibit 2.
Judge, at this time, people would like to admit people exhibit two, I'm sorry, publish people exhibit two.
You may.
Now, approach your, you may. May I have one moment, Judge?
You may.
Just a few more questions, Ms. Thomas Greer. The people that you referred to, earlier in your testimony, Ms. Crystal Hall and Ms. Machina, was it Machina?
it's a gentleman, Machista Choice,
Okay,
and they're a couple.
they're a couple. Okay, and you said you met those individuals through Ms. Robinson?
No, I met Machista Choice and Crystal Hall through my husband, Stanley Greer. I met Valerie Robinson through Crystal Hall. Crystal Hall and Valerie Robinson are friends for over 30 years.
Okay,
And
okay,
No. Mr. Next question.
thank you. And, Ms. Thomas Greer, did you give, Mr. Smith permission to grab you around the neck?
no,
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
Okay, cross-examination.
Good morning, Ms. Thomas Greer.
fine.
Okay, so again, can you tell the court, about how many people were present at this event around 9:40 p.m.?
So around 9:40 p.m., there were about maybe
Well, let me ask you this, were there more than 10 people present?
I can't say that there was.
Okay, so around 9:40 p.m., Machista Choice was present?
Yes,
Okay, and was Barbara also present?
no, she was not.
Okay, and was Crystal present?
Yes. she was.
Okay, all right, and so, so before you left to go pick up your son, had you consumed any alcohol?
I had a a cup of wine, and then I have water. Yes.
Okay, and so, while you were gone to pick up your son, did you consume any alcohol?
No, I was gone over an hour.
Okay, and then when you returned, did you consume any alcohol?
No, I didn't. I ate my shrimp.
Okay, so the incident that you testified that you were at the party for a while and you left the party and went back to the party, correct?
I did.
Okay, so the incident that brings us to court today happened when you returned to the party, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so was your husband at the party when you returned?
No,
Okay, so he never came back to the event?
afterwards,
After what?
the incident.
Okay, so there's this incident between you and Mr. Smith, and then your husband returns?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
did you call him to come back, or was this, do you know?
I was planning on him coming anyway.
Okay, all right, return. Got you. Okay, all right, so you testified that, once you got back to the party, that you saw Mr. Smith and Choice, Mr. Choice, is that his name?
Yes,
Okay, so you saw Mr. Smith and Mr. Choice playing cards?
yes,
Okay, and you approached Mr. Smith while he was playing cards with Mr. Choice?
no.
Okay, how did you come into contact with Mr. Smith when you returned to the party?
Around 9:40, I was about to leave.
Okay.
So, and his sister or whomever, I believe that was his sister, and I'm referring to Mr. Smith and whoever they were playing cards with. I believe that was her.
Let me ask you this, so when you came into contact with Mr. Smith, what was he doing?
Standing.
Okay, and was he standing alone?
No,
Who was he standing with?
with Mr. Matissa Choice.
Okay, and so did you approach Mr. Smith at that point?
I walked over to, both of them. I walked over to Matissa Choice to say bye. And
Okay,
I was leaving.
okay,
And at that point, I asked Mr. Smith if I could talk to him.
okay, and, how were you feeling about Mr. Smith when you asked if you could talk to him?
What do you mean?
I mean, how were you feeling? What was your emotional state when you asked Mr. Smith if you could talk to him?
My emotional state was fine. I just asked if I could talk to him.
Okay, you were just curious, or
Curious about what?
as to whether or not he would want to have a conversation with you?
You want me to tell you what I asked him?
No, I don't. So, Mr. Smith, he said he didn't want to talk to you, is that correct?
Well, that's not correct.
Okay, did he want to speak with you? Did he give you the impression that he wanted to talk with you?
Yes,
Okay, and then did he have a conversation with you?
yes, we did have a conversation.
Okay, so can you describe your emotional state after that conversation, after you decided to have a conversation?
I was upset and I walked away because it didn't go anywhere. And as I was walking toward Crystal Hall under the tent,
Uh-huh,
Mr. Smith and Mr. Choice were walking together behind me.
okay,
I put my purse on the cooler to tell Crystal bye, as I was telling her bye.
okay, let me ask you about that. You were in the process of leaving the venue, correct?
Yes,
Why did you put your purse down?
to say bye to Crystal.
Okay,
She's underneath the tent. I'm saying bye.
okay, well, did you intend to take your purse with you?
Really?
Did you intend to take your purse with you when you left the event?
I'm sorry, what do you mean? My
Did
purse
you-
was with me all the time.
Okay, but you indicate you testified that you put your purse down.
On the cooler to grab my keys out.
Okay, all right. So, okay, all right. And so did you actually get your keys out of your purse?
I did not, because at that time, Mr. Smith grabbed me from behind.
Okay, so you're walking away from Mr. Smith and Mr. Choice, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and you see Crystal, correct?
yes,
And you're gonna tell Crystal goodbye,
yes,
okay? And you lay your purse down to get your keys out of your purse.
yes,
Okay, and then Mr. Smith grabs you from behind.
yes,
Do you know where Mr. Choice was at that time?
right alongside of him.
Okay, and you at some point, tried to get, were curious as to why Mr. Choice and Crystal were kind of just letting this happen to you, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and at some point, I believe you testified that Crystal stood between, you at one point lunged toward Mr. Smith, is that correct?
yes, after I was thrown into a petition and turned around and came back with my hands up, she stepped in the middle.
Okay, but she didn't step in before when Mr. Smith grabbed you from behind?
No,
Did Mr. Choice step in?
no,
Okay, and so Crystal stepped in to stop you from lunging at Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Is that because you had an object in your hand?
what object did I have in my hand?
Did you have a staple gun in your hand?
No,
Did you at any point have a staple gun in your possession?
no,
Okay, all right, but Chris,
it's dark. Where would I find a staple gun?
So the questions are to come from that way to this way. So Ms. Stevenson, the question come from that way to this way.
okay, so, Crystal, though, was in, she's right there when this incident is happening between you and Mr. Smith, right? Let me
Crystal-
ask you this, was
I'm
Crystal
sorry.
close enough to see Mr. Smith grab you from behind?
Yes,
Okay, and was Crystal close enough to see Mr. Smith throw you to the floor?
he never threw me to the ground. He tried to. I was tussling and preventing him to not throw me to the ground.
Was Crystal close enough to see that?
Yes,
Okay, and as you stood up, Crystal went to stop you, is that correct?
stood up, I was always standing.
Okay, but at some point, Crystal moves to stop you, correct?
No, she never moved to stop me. She never moved to do anything.
What did Crystal do?
Bristol intervened once I was pushed into a partition. And then when I turned around, she stepped in the middle.
Okay, was she facing you or Mr. Smith? Do
She
you
was
remember?
facing Mr. Smith.
Okay, so she was actually trying to stop Mr. Smith.
I have no idea what she was trying to do.
Okay, did you testify that to Ms. Ritter, did you tell Ms. Ritter that Crystal stepped in to stop you?
I never said that she stepped in to stop me.
Okay, all right, okay, so when you, did you, so, did you have any contact with Valerie Robbins the night of this incident?
Yes,
Okay, did you have any contact with Valerie Robbins after this altercation between you and Mr. Smith?
Objection or relevant, Your Honor.
overruled.
Did you have any contact with Valerie Robbins after this incident with Mr. Smith?
Yes, Valerie Robinson contacted me.
Okay, did Valerie Robbins remove an object from your hand?
Maybe
Did she take a staple gun away from you?
Valerie Robinson, what do you mean?
The question is really clear, so let's ask it again.
Did not,
Did Valerie Robbins take a staple gun from you after this incident? That is a yes or no question.
No,
okay, all right. Okay, so how long at the time of this party, how long were you friends with Machiso Choice?
yes,
How long had you been friends with Machiso Choice?
I met Choice back in, I'll say about 7 years, 7, 8 years. I met him through my husband.
Okay, so at the time of this incident, you've been friends with him about 7 years?
Yes,
And after this incident between you and Mr. Smith, did you see Mr. Choice anymore that evening?
no,
When is the last time you remember seeing Mr. Choice that evening?
on the night of that evening.
I didn't hear you.
The night of that evening.
Okay, so the incident between you and Mr. Smith happened, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so when is the last time, I'm talking about that time, that frame of reference right there, when's the last time you remember seeing Mr. Choice?
I said that evening.
Okay, all right.
After you got assaulted, did you see Mr. Choice ever again?
No,
Okay, that's the question you want to answer, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have anything further.
Very briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Thomas Greer, what was, Mr. Smith's demeanor like during the conversation that you had with, or the attempted conversation you tried to have with him?
he became, agitated and aggressive.
Why?
Object to speculation.
Okay.
Because of the.
Sustain. Don't answer.
Let me ask another question.
Yes, please.
From your observance, what was, Mr. Smith's disposition? Like, was he upset? Was he angry from what you observed?
Outside of the fact of, being intoxicated, he was aggressive,
I'm talking about during the conversation.
and he was involved with me.
I didn't hear that.
He was vowed, his language was vowed, and because of what I asked him.
What did you ask him?
I just asked him, don't he feel that he owed me an apology?
And what were you referencing to?
To the event that happened on
Object to
November
relevance, Your Honor.
28th.
I don't know what was your question? I think you asked her,
What was it in reference to?
what was it?
Yes, what was it in reference to? You can answer this.
It was in reference to an event, where he had put his hands on me prior, on November the 28th, 2022.
Okay, now, between November of 2022 and this day in question, which is July 2023, have you seen Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Then I have another. Ms. Lynise.
So You said that you believe that Mr. Smith was intoxicated?
There's objection to speculation.
No, overrule your witness testifying that outside of being drunk, blah, blah, blah. I will allow the question. What did you say?
You said that you believe Mr. Smith was intoxicated, is that correct?
I did say that,
Okay, did you see him consuming alcohol?
yes,
Okay, did you see him consuming alcohol before you approached him?
yes,
Okay, and prior, the incident that you referred to in November, you alleged that Mr. Smith assaulted you?
yes,
Okay, so is it your testimony that Mr. Smith assaulted you months prior to this incident, and he was intoxicated at the time of this altercation between the two of you, is that correct?
repeat that, please.
So is it your testimony that Mr. Smith assaulted you months before this incident, right?
But what he did to me,
Did you-
Ma'am, please answer that question.
I didn't press any charge.
That is not the question. The question is, did you allege that he assaulted you before this incident? Did you testify that he assaulted you before this incident?
No. I don't have it.
Ma'am, didn't you just testify that in November of 2022, Mr. Smith, touched you?
Listen, you
No,
guys
no,
are
no,
just,
ma'am,
y'all
please
are
don't.
confusing me. with
Ma'am.
all this stuff. I know what this man has done to me.
Ma'am, let me say this.
And I can't
No,
take
we're not gonna do this. So are we gonna strike the whole testimony and we're gonna cancel the trial? Because she's not gonna interrupt me.
Just, make sure you have 1 minute.
What, I guess so, but it's inappropriate for you to talk to her in the middle of her testimony.
I'm not, I said for her to have 1 minute, just not for me to talk.
You can, I mean, she didn't ask for a minute, but she started fussing at me for some unknown reason. It's inappropriate, but she can have a minute. Go, we can take a recess. Let's take a recess. Let's take a recess, ma'am. Step down out of the witness box, please. My question was, didn't you testify that Mr. Smith assaulted you on November, well, now I don't see my date, but in November of 2022, can you say that was what the conversation was about?
Yes.
So in response to Ms. Stevenson's question, then why did you just say that you didn't say that?
I was confused.
All right. And then my other question is, when Mr. Smith came up from behind you, and I think you said he grabbed your neck, and there were two people you said standing near, that was Ms. Hall and Mr. Choice. What did they say? Did they strike that question? The question is, did they say anything when he grabbed you by the neck?
No.
So Mr. Choice and Ms. Hall, they didn't say anything and they didn't do anything.
No.
All right, are there any questions based on my questions?
Not from the people you're on the table.
No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, you may step down. You are free to stay in the courtroom if you choose. Anything further on behalf of the people?
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, the people would like to call Corporal Williams.
All right.
That's from me. That's from Mr. G.
Why she didn't use the scan until she's.
I've already eaten.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Right.
State your name for me.
Corporal Frederick Williams.
And Corporal Williams, did you tune into the live stream while you were waiting?
No.
You may see.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Corporal.
Good afternoon.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Corporal Frederick Williams,
And Corporal Williams, where are you employed?
City of Detroit,
What do you do for the city of Detroit?
Detroit police officer,
And how long have you been employed as a Detroit police officer?
23 years.
Okay, and I want to take you back to July 29th of 2023. Were you employed with the Detroit Police Department at that time?
Yes,
Okay, and on or about that day, where were you?
at 7th Precinct, working station security.
Okay,
And 7 precinct,
7th Precinct, right,
no, you said some security.
station security.
Thank you.
may I proceed?
You might, thank you.
And where is the 7th precinct located, Corporal?
3501 Shane.
Okay, and when you say station security, can you just give the court a little insight on what that, job duty?
Police officer sits at the front door, checks everybody in for illegal drugs or contraband or guns or weapons.
Okay, and were you working alone or were you with someone at the station?
I was looking along.
Okay, and, did you come into contact with the individual, by the name of Lynise Thomas Greer?
Yes,
Okay, and tell the court what happened when you came into contact with Ms. Thomas Greer.
she came in late evening, wanted to make a report about an incident that happened that day.
Okay, and when you say late evening, do you recall what time it was?
Later in the afternoon, unknown what time.
Okay, and, if you recall, can you describe, her physical appearance to the court?
That I cannot recall.
Okay, and without telling me what was said by Ms. Thomas Greer or you, do you remember the nature of what she was reporting to the station?
It was about an incident that happened at a retirement party.
Okay, and again, without telling me what was said, can you describe the nature of what took place at this party?
Some sort of an assault.
Okay, did she give you anything or any more details about the incident?
That I had to refer back to my report, what she actually stated to me that day.
Okay, well, without telling me what she said, what did you do after you received that information?
I put it on an incident report at the station.
Okay, and did you do anything else after that?
No,
Okay, and do you recall if Ms. Thomas Greer spoke with anyone else that day?
no,
Okay.
No, you don't recall, or no, she didn't?
no, she did not.
Thank you.
Now, Corporal, do you recall if Ms. Thomas Greer came to the station by herself or with someone else?
By herself.
By herself, okay. And, Corporal, is there anything else you remember regarding this incident?
No.
Okay. No further questions, Sharon?
Ms. Dixon, any questions?
No question, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Corporal, you may step down. Anything further we have, people?
No, Your Honor.
People rest?
The people do rest.
Anything on behalf of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, on behalf of the defense. Valerie Robbins.
All right. Officer Valerie Robbins, please.
This is so good.
No, I'm telling the officer to get Valerie Robbins.
I'm going to refer to her.
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
It is money.
Clarity.
Yeah. All right.
Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
All right, what's your name, ma'am?
Valerie Robin.
Ms. Robbins, you've been sitting in the hall waiting for it to be called as a witness.
Yeah.
While you were sitting in the hall, did you, log into the live stream?
No.
Thank you. Please see. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Please, tell the court your name.
Valerie Robin.
Okay, Ms. Robbins, I'm gonna ask you questions. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just ask me.
Okay.
Okay, all right, if you can't hear me or anything like that, just ask me to speak up
Okay.
or slow down. Sometimes I talk too fast.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna take you back to, no, excuse me, July 29th, 2023. Are you familiar with the location of 2160 Mount Elliott in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
Can you tell the court what was located at that address on July 29th, 2023?
You said what? Repeat that.
What was is that a residence, a business was located at that address?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and what type of business is it, if you know?
We have events. I mean, it was my dad's church, so we have events outside.
Okay, all right, and so how did you happen to be at that location on July 29th, 2023?
We had an event that day,
Okay, what kind of event did you?
like a pop-up. I don't know if you're familiar with the pop-up, but we had people that came. So, basically that. And we just had, some people from my old job, like a review.
Okay, okay,
Ms. Robbins, do me one favor. You can speak up a little louder or move that mic a little closer to you. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, and so what was your role at that event, if any?
I'm the owner, I allowed them to come here, so,
Okay, so were you the hostess of the event, or?
no.
Okay, you just were,
I'm like the overseer, I just let them use the property and I was there,
I understand,
but it wasn't my event, it was something.
I got you, okay. Do you know about how many people were at that event?
Not right off.
Okay, do you know if there were more than 10 people there?
Yes,
Okay, and you know about what time the event started? Do you remember?
I want to say about 4 o'clock.
Okay, do you remember about what time the last person left?
No, not correct.
Okay, all right, so, were there more than 50 people there?
I would say no.
Okay, all right, okay, so do you know whether or not, Elijah Smith was there?
Yes,
Okay, and do you know whether or not Lynita Thomas Greer?
Yes.
Okay, now, how on the date of this incident, were you acquainted with Elijah Smith?
I mean, I knew he was there, yes.
Okay, how did you know him?
He's a personal friend of mine.
Okay, was he your boyfriend?
Yes,
Okay, is he your boyfriend now?
we're still friends.
Okay, then is he your boyfriend?
Well, not my boyfriend.
Okay, all right, okay, so, and then how did you know Lynita Thomas Greer?
Yes,
Okay, how did you know her?
she's a friend of mine also.
Okay, about how long have you been friends with Miss Thomas Greer at that time?
I've just known her a couple of years. We're
Okay.
Another friend.
Okay, all right, so, is there something out of the ordinary that happened that night, that particular night at that event?
I don't really know what happened. I just know that there was something happened. I didn't see anything happen.
Okay, was it something, whatever you observed, was it something out of the ordinary, or?
Objection, Judge Anthony.
I didn't observe it.
Okay,
Yeah, she's sustained, well, out loud, but she said she didn't observe it.
okay, so you didn't observe an altercation or anything?
Objection,
No.
Judge Anthony.
Okay, I'll move on from there.
I didn't hear y'all, but they was talking to me, telling me, asking me if your witness could come in the courtroom, and I told her she could stay here in the court. What did you say?
I was, whatever I asked, I was.
She asked about altercation, she was very non-objection to that.
Okay, sustained. Well, it's withdrawn. Okay.
Okay, all right, so did you come into contact with Lynita Thomas Greer on the night of the incident?
Yes,
Okay, did you notice, you had known her at that point about how many years, you said?
I've known her for a few years.
A few years, okay. And could you describe Ms. Thomas Greer's, overall demeanor the night of the incident?
Objection to speculation.
Oh. You may answer.
Oh, okay. I mean, we were having an event and she had been drinking.
Okay, so did she appear, from your observation, and you've seen people intoxicated before, correct?
Yes,
Okay, would you have described Ms. Thomas Greer as being intoxicated? 100%?
yes,
Okay, and would you describe Mr. Smith as having been intoxicated?
no,
Okay, so, did you see Lynita Thomas Greer, as she was leaving the event?
yes,
Did you see her when she got there?
not directly, no,
Okay, did you have any interaction with her when she was leaving the event?
yes.
Can you describe the interaction you had with her, with Ms. Thomas Greer as she was leaving the event?
When she was very upset and irate, and I just kept trying to calm her down, I couldn't understand, she was just irate.
Okay, and did you make any other observations, or?
I just was trying to calm her down and ask what happened, because I never knew what happened.
Okay, all right. And you didn't see any kind of a confrontation or anything?
Objection to
I'm
Anthony.
sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Okay, all right. So was there anything particularly, that stood out in your mind about, other than the fact that Ms. Thomasburg was upset, anything else that was going on that you think would be important for the court to know?
Objection, Judge, to answer.
Not as an answer, but too broad. This question is too broad. I don't want to know what she want me to know. I want to know what you want me to know.
Did you see, as Lynita Thomasburg was leaving the event, did she have anything in her hand?
Yes,
What did she have?
she had a stapler gun.
Okay, and did you see her doing anything with that staple?
I mean, she was just upset and waving it, I just took it out of her hand.
Okay, and then what did you do with it when you took it out of her hand?
I had it, I mean,
Okay,
I just kept it.
okay, at the time that you removed the staple gun from Ms. Thomasburg's hand, do you know where Mr. Smith was?
He had left,
Pardon me?
he had left.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now, Ms. Robbins, you know the difference between telling the truth and not telling the truth, right?
Yes,
Okay, so, do you come to court today telling the truth to the judge? Are you telling the judge the truth?
yes,
Okay, all right. Coming to court trying to protect Mr. Smith?
no.
All right, I don't have any.
Yes, sir, thank you. All right, Ms. Robbins, I just have a couple of questions for you, just to clarify your testimony, and if you can't understand what I'm saying or you need to repeat the question, just let me know, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Ms. Robbins, you described Mr. Smith as your boyfriend, is that correct?
Yes,
On the day in question, how long had you been in a relationship with Mr. Smith?
a few years,
A few years?
couple years, yeah.
Okay, how long have you known him overall?
Oh, wow, a long.
A long time, so you've known him for a long time, correct? That's safe to say?
Yes,
Okay, and you testified that you're the owner of this property at 2160 Mount Elliott?
yes,
Okay, what exactly do you own, the church, is it a church?
it used to be my dad's church.
Okay, but you own that, correct? Okay, and you, testified that there was a pop-up event at that, on that day?
Yeah.
Okay, but you weren't, I guess, hosting the event?
No,
Okay, so you were there to is it a testimony you were there to oversee what was going on at the event?
yes,
Did you know who's throwing a pop-up event?
I rented it to them.
Okay, did you know that person personally? I'm sorry.
Yes,
You did? Okay, so it's safe to say you knew, the guests that were at that pop-up event?
some,
Some, okay. Do you know Mr. Choice?
yes,
Do you know Ms. Hall?
yes.
How do you know Mr. Choice and Ms. Hall?
Ms. Hall, we worked together for years.
For years? Is she a personal friend of yours?
Yes,
Your
Okay,
Honor, at this point, I think this is outside the scope of direct examination.
It is, but that's not law in the state of Michigan.
Understood, Your
Okay, continue.
thank you, Your Honor. And how long have you known Ms. Hall and Mr. Choice?
I can't say how long I know Mr. Choice, because I can't put a year on it, but I've been knowing Ms. Hall for about 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite a long time. You've been friends with her for 30 years?
Yeah.
Is that your testimony?
Yes,
Okay, and, how, is Mr. Choice and Ms. Hall, affiliated with each other, you know?
to my knowledge, yeah, they're a couple. That's
They're a
what you're
couple?
asking me.
Say that again?
If they're a couple, if that's what you're asking me, that's her friend.
Okay. And on the day in question, well, strike that. Let me ask you this, Ms. Robbins, are you friends with Ms. Thomasburg?
Yes,
Are you friends with her today?
I mean, I don't have anything against her, yes.
Okay, on the day in question, how long had you known Ms. Thomasburg?
I mean, I can't really say, I don't remember when we actually met, but I've known her for a few years off
A few years, okay. How did you meet Ms. Thomasburg?
through Christmas.
So you met her through Ms. Hall,
Ms.
so through your friend for 30 years?
Right.
Okay, and what, when you noticed Ms. Thomasburg being irate, where were you at that moment?
I came outside the building because they told me something was going on and I just came out, they just called me, I just heard them saying Valerie.
Who,
So I don't know who said, I just heard him saying Valerie, so I came outside.
So you came outside, and it's your testimony that you didn't see anything, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, when you came outside, where was Mr. Smith?
Well, when I came outside, I seen him, and so I went to him, and he was, just telling me I wasn't gonna let anybody do anything to me, and I was just telling him to calm down.
Okay, so when you say calm, I'm sorry, when you say calm down, was he irate, angry?
He was just saying, I wasn't gonna let anybody do anything to me, I don't want nobody to hurt me, and I was just telling him to calm down.
Why were you telling him to calm down?
Because everybody was calling me outside, and I didn't know what was going down, he was just explaining to me. So he never got a chance to tell me anything, I was just telling him to calm down. And so then he just left, I just told him to leave and he left.
Okay, well, I don't think that answers my question. Why were you telling him to calm down? What made you want to tell him to calm down?
Because when I came outside, he was just saying, I don't want anybody to do anything to me. And I was trying to find out what was going on. And so I just told him to leave. My girlfriend, Crystal, had called. And she was saying, Valerie, Valerie. So I heard them calling me from the inside, so I just came out.
Okay,
And
so
then when
was
I came out, I seen him, I told him to leave, and then I seen Miss Anita. And so I was trying to find out what happened. And she was just upset, so I could never get anything out of her.
okay, so let me ask you this. Why did you tell him to leave?
Because I didn't know what was going on.
Okay,
I'm just trying to find out what's going on.
so you didn't see anything, that's your testimony, correct?
Correct?
And you're telling Mr. Smith to calm down, correct?
Yes, because
Okay.
I don't know what's going on,
Okay, and then you see Ms. Thomas Greer, is that correct?
right?
But it's your testimony that you told Mr. Smith to leave, correct?
Yes, I was telling him to leave because when I came out and I'm seeing commotion, everybody's doing it, because she was so upset. I was trying to calm her down. So I wanted to go to her because she was so upset to see what happened. And I
Okay,
just
so,
told him to leave.
okay, so let me ask you this. Why didn't you not tell Ms. Thomas Greer to leave?
She was leaving.
Okay,
When I seen her, I went to her car, she was at the car, and I was trying to find out what happened. And she was just hollering, he owed me an apology, he owed me an apology. And I was like, an apology for what? And I kept saying, calm down, but I never could get anything out of her because she was so upset. And she just was hollering, you know. Just, I couldn't understand, so I still really don't know what happened. I was trying to find out what happened.
I understand that, but I guess my question is, you told Ms. Thomas Greer to calm down because she seemed upset, is that correct?
Yeah, she was leaving when I came out the door, so when you come out my building, there's a side door.
So my question is, you told her to calm down because she seemed visibly upset?
I was trying to find out what happened. Yes, I told
Okay.
them both, I was trying to find out what happened.
Okay, so why were you telling Mr. Smith to calm down?
I was telling them both
Objection at
to
this
calm down. When I came outside,
Objection, Your Honor. I think that question has been asked numerous times, answered.
I don't think it's been answered, but it's been asked, but I don't think I got my answer.
I don't know what you're
Hold on, please. It has been asked, but I agree with Ms. Ritter that it, well, let me say something. It has been asked and an answer has been given. But the answer that's been given is non-responsive, and so I'm gonna allow the question.
So, let me repeat, so Ms. Thomas Greer seems visibly upset, so you told her to calm down, correct? That's your testimony, correct?
My testimony is everybody was upset. I'm just trying to find out what's going on.
But
I'm
you
telling
didn't say that.
everybody to calm down.
You
So
didn't
it's
say
not,
that.
Hold on, you all can't talk at the same time, but, okay, I don't know if she was finished her answer. But go ahead, Ms. Ritter.
Okay, so you didn't testify everybody was upset, you testified that Ms.
Crystal, I heard someone hollering my name. I came outside. I don't know what was going on. I'm trying to find out what's going on. And that's where I was.
Okay, so my question is that, why were you telling Mr. Smith to calm down?
Because he was trying to tell me what happened. And because I was talking to him, I just told him to leave, so that there wouldn't be anything.
Ask the question that you want the answer to.
Exactly, I don't know.
No, ma'am, that's for me to say, not you. Ms. Ritter, ask the question that you want the answer to.
Thank you, Judge. So was Mr. Smith upset, angry in any way?
No,
He was,
He was upset, but I wouldn't say angry. He was trying to tell me what happened.
okay. And where was Ms. Hall and Mr. Choice at this time?
They were out there too.
Okay, did you speak with them?
I was just trying to speak to anybody to find
My
out what,
question is, did you speak to them?
not directly, no. No,
So you never got an answer about what happened?
no.
I have no further questions.
Can you redirect?
So when you get out there, you see that Mr. Smith is upset, correct?
Mhm.
You see that Ms. Thomas Greer is upset.
Right.
And at what point do you take the staple gun away from Ms. Thomas Greer?
When I came out the door, my side door, just like a little walkway, so I walked up to the front because she was so angry and I was trying to find out what was going on. And so
Just
she,
objection to response.
At what point do you take the staple gun away from Ms. Thomas Greer?
when I walked up to her because she's doing like this and I just took her out of her hand.
As if the record reflect that the witness is waving around, that would be her right hand.
Right.
As her right hand lifted, it's waving, making a wave motion.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have anything further.
Anything?
Yes, so Ms. Robbins, earlier your testimony to me, you testified that Ms. Thomas Greer was walking, she was already leaving, is that correct?
She was at her car.
Okay, and you testified to Ms. Stevenson that she was waving the staple gun before she got to her car?
I didn't see her when I walked out. She was at her car.
Okay, so at what point was she waving the staple gun that you testified?
When I was trying to talk to her to find out what's going on and she had it in her hand, I just took it out of her hand.
And she was already at her car?
She wasn't in her car, she was at her car. She was, when you walk out my building, say this is the gate and this is the street. I came out the gate and she was standing at the gate. So she wasn't actually at her car, but her car was parked right there in front of the building. So
Did you
between
see her?
here and there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say it's from here to where you are.
Okay, did you see, wasn't it your testimony that you saw her walking to the vehicle and she was already leaving?
When I walked out, she's at the gate and her car is from here to the gate, which is no further than from here to there. So it's not like she had to walk a distance. So I walked out and I was trying to find out what was going on. I walked up to her and she went to walk to her car. That's where I seen her walking. So I just,
So when you saw her walking, you didn't testify that you saw the staple gun in her hand, is that correct?
the staple gun was in her hand when I started talking to her to see what was happening.
My
That's what
question is, when you saw her walking to the vehicle, you didn't testify that you saw the staple gun in her hand, that she was walking to the vehicle, is that correct?
I did not, I wasn't paying
No
any
further
attention.
questions, Judge.
Okay, Ms. Stevenson.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, I have a question for you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You testified that, that you saw, this, Thomas Greer, you testified you saw her like during the event, and you
Yes.
testified that she appeared to you to be intoxicated. Was that your testimony?
Yes.
My question is, when was that? So,
Are you asking time?
kind of like, yes, of time. Do you know what time it was?
No.
Okay, how long? How much time would you say passed between the time you saw her when you felt like she might have been intoxicated and the time that you saw her after the people was calling you to come outside? Like, how much time had that? Was it an hour, 2 hours? Not quite an hour?
Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. I mean, it's an ongoing event, so I'm in and out.
So did you see her more than once, like, before this, before you saw her, you know, the whole thing you just testified to, did you see her more than once throughout the event?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, are there any questions based on my question?
No.
from the people?
I have one question.
Okay,
With respect to seeing Ms. Thomas Greer, did you, or do you recall seeing her when she first arrived to the event?
No,
Okay, no further questions.
okay, thank you, ma'am, you may step down. You may stay in the courtroom if you wish. Anything further on behalf of the defense?
Defense rests, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith, stand and state your name for me, sir. State your name for me, sir.
Elijah Smith.
Oh, I forgot, no, I'm sorry. I don't wanna yell. Can you raise my mic, Mr. Flanagan? Can you turn up my mic some? Mr. Smith, your lawyer just said I'm sorry, no, she didn't. Your lawyer just said, thank you. Ooh. Your lawyer just said defense rest. That means no more, evidence on behalf of the defense. That means that she's, indicating that you're not gonna testify. You understand that?
Yes,
And is it your decision not to testify?
that's correct.
Do you understand that the decision of whether or not you testify is yours to make? Do you understand?
Yes,
And in consultation with your lawyer, have you personally decided, that you are not gonna testify?
that's correct.
Has anyone threatened you in any way or promised you anything to get you not to testify?
No,
It is your personal decision.
that's
Court is
correct.
satisfied, the defense rests. Any rebuttal on behalf of the people?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may be seated, sir. Okay, then are we look, now, I'm so close. Are we ready for closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, give me a second. All right, I'm ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, so as the people indicated to the court in opening statements, that the court will hear about an incident that took place on July 29, 2023. And this incident, was at a retirement gathering, located at the 2160 Mount Elliott address in the city of Detroit. And the court did hear, quite a few testimonies from quite a few different people, Judge. But I just want to point out some key testimony regarding the witnesses that did testify today in court. So the victim testified, Ms. Thomas Greer, she testified that she went to this retirement party, that she did see a few people that she knew. She testified that she saw Ms. Hall and Mr. Choice. She testified that she did see some other people. She also testified that she saw Mr. Smith. The complaining witness, Ms. Thomas Greer, testified that she went to the party around maybe.
I apologize. Give me 1 minute. Judge Jones is disrupting our trial. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. And Ms. Thomas Greer testified that she came to this location in the evening, she stayed for a minute, and she left, and then came back to this event. In her testimony, Judge, I just want to point out to the court that Ms. Thomas Greer brings up her being in contact with Mr. Smith, and she brings up the fact that she knows Mr. Smith, and she's known him for a couple of years. And during the end of the night, as she was leaving this event, she testified that she approached Mr. Smith, as Mr. Smith was standing with a person by the name of Mr. Choice. And she brings up an incident that happened prior to this day in question. I believe it happened back in November of 2022. And she wanted to address this incident with Mr. Smith. Ms. Thomas Greer testified that the nature of the conversation became heated. Mr. Smith became a little upset, and as she was walking away, she testified that Mr. Smith grabbed her from behind by the neck and tried to take her down, Your Honor. She testified that she never went to the ground, but she was kind of struggling to keep her balance, and then at that point, Mr. Smith pushed her into this partition. Your Honor, there was also an exhibit 2 that was admitted to court, which was admitted through the evidence, from Ms. Thomas Greer, who stated that she went to the Hoover urgent care after this incident to go get checked out because of the injury she sustained, from this incident. Your Honor, the court also heard testimony from Corporal Williams that Ms. Thomas Greer did come to the precinct, 7th precinct, to make a police report regarding this incident. And, Corporal Williams' testimony was the nature of the report stemmed from this incident that happened at this retirement gap. Now, that's important, Your Honor, because I want to hear that, testimony, or those testimonies to defense witnesses. Now, defense called Ms. Robbins to the stand, who is the girlfriend of Mr. Smith, or was the girlfriend of Mr. Smith at the time of the incident. And she testified that she didn't see what happened. She testified that she kind of came, and I'm just paraphrasing, people are paraphrasing on it, but she came after the event took place, or the incident took place. And so she just kind of just observed the aftermath. And what's interesting to me, Judge, is a few things. When Ms. Robbins testified, one, she said that as she was speaking to Mr. Smith, that she was telling him to calm down. And I still don't think that people got an exact answer as to why she was telling him to calm down. But what's interesting is that she testified that Mr. Smith said that he was only protecting himself. And so that's interesting to point out to the court, because that testimony is that her saying she was telling him to calm down, and him saying these words, him protecting himself or defending himself or whatever she said that he testified, or that she testified to, is she told him to immediately leave after this. And then she goes and talks to Ms. Thomas Greer, who's at her car. Now, what's interesting about that testimony as well is that I think the people asked her, when she testified that she saw Ms. Thomas Greer walking to her car, did she see the silver staple gun, or the silver staple gun that was in her hand? And Ms. Robbins testified to the people that she didn't see it in her hand when she was walking to the car. However, there was testimony that she saw the silver staple gun in her hand at the car when Ms. Thomas Greer was standing there. So Ms. Robbins testified that Ms. Thomas Greer was upset as well. But I want the court to pay attention to the relationships between these parties involved. Ms. Robbins testified that she's known Ms. Hall for over 30 years, and that Ms. Hall was in a relationship with Mr. Choi. And these are the two people who, according to Ms. Thomas Greer's testimony, who was present during the physical attack from Mr. Smith. However, when the people asked her, did she talk to Ms. Hall or Mr. Choi about what happened, she told the people that she did not talk to them. And that's interesting because, Judge, it goes to the bias of the alleged eyewitnesses to what happened in this incident, Your Honor. We have Ms. Hall and Mr. Choi, who were there present during this assault from Mr. Smith. However, they don't say anything, according to Ms. Robbins, they don't say anything to Ms. Robbins about what happened. Ms. Robbins doesn't ask them about what happened. And Ms. Hall and Mr. Choi are not here today in court. And I'm just asking the court to use their common sense and everyday experience. There's obviously some implicit bias with these parties, Your Honor. They're friends with Ms. Robbins. They've been, well, Ms. Hall is friends with Ms. Robbins. She's been friends with her for over 30 years. So of course she's not gonna come and testify to the court about what happened, because she wouldn't want to get her friend's boyfriend in trouble. And another thing for the court is that Judge, Ms. Robbins testified that she owned this building where this incident occurred. And that's important to the court because we don't have any cameras, we don't have any other evidence about what exactly took place. And Ms. Robbins couldn't give an exact answer because she wasn't there. She didn't ask anybody what happened. Nobody told her about what happened on that day. So, Your Honor, I'm asking the court to take that into consideration when looking at the elements of this crime, because Ms. Thomas Greer testified as to what happened. She told the court what happened on that day. And Ms. Thomas Greer was credible and seemed reasonably honest when she was testifying as to what happened on that day. So I'm asking the court to take that into consideration, and I'm asking the court to find Mr. Smith guilty of count 1 assault back. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stevenson.
So, I think it's interesting too that the people don't bring any witnesses other than the complaining witness to talk about what did or did not happen on the date of this incident. It is interesting to me that Ms. Thomas, that Ms. Thomas Greer's friend, Mr. Choice, of about 7 years, is there, and he sees her being choked from behind by another man, and he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't do anything, and then he doesn't come to court to try to help his friend out. And these are Mr. Choice, and I think it's Ms. Crystal. Those are people that I think Ms. Thomas Greer testified were sitting at her table. They're a part of her friend group. She knows these people, and she's being the victim of this vicious attack, and they don't do anything to help her. They just stand there, and they don't say anything, and they don't do anything, and they don't come to court. And Ms. Robbins testified that at the time of the incident, Mr. Smith was her boyfriend, but today he's not her boyfriend, and she's still friends with him, but she's also still friends with Ms. Thomas Greer. She doesn't have anything against her. So if there is a neutral party here, it is Ms. Thomas. It is Ms. Robbins. So the people, as this court knows, has a burden of proof. Ms. Robbins testified that this is her building, and so there's some commotion that goes on, and people are calling her name, and she goes out there and she sees that something has been happening, and she does see Mr. Smith, and she's like, okay, calm down. And then she tells him to leave. She doesn't tell Ms. Thomas Greer to leave because she's already there at her car. I think what's most telling about the interaction between Ms. Robbins and Ms. Thomas Greer is that Ms. Thomas Greer has this object that she denied on cross-examination, even being in possession of. Why do that? And then what is it about she's leaving and she sees her friend and she puts her purse down. She puts her purse down as she's leaving. And then I asked her about that. She puts her purse down so she can get her keys as she's leaving. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I think it really is kind of fatally wounding Ms. Thomas Greer's credibility when she says that she sees this man who has previously assaulted her. Then she testified that she observed him to appear intoxicated, although that's contradicted by Ms. Robbins' testimony. Previously attacked her, he appears to be intoxicated, but she goes to confront him about an apology. Now none of that makes any sense. None of that makes any sense. I don't know what was going on at this party, but I do know it would be helpful to hear from Mr. Choice. I know it would be helpful to just have him kind of explain what did he see that caused him not to step up when his friend, his female friend, is being choked from behind by a man. What would cause him just to stand there and not do anything? I don't know. It sounds like that might not be exactly what's going on. It sounds like there is something different that's happening and we don't know what it is. And because we don't know what it is, I'm arguing that the people have not met their burden of proof. The one witness that testifies for defense is not biased. She is here still friendly with both parties. No longer in a romantic relationship with Mr. Smith, but still friendly with both parties. And the people who could shed some light on what's going on or what was going on over there just are not here to do that. So I don't know that Ms. Thomas Greer is like really factual, that she was just confused about what's going on. There's, you know, the truth doesn't shift around. The experience and traumatizes. But we still need to show them straight. Thomas Greer wasn't able to do. I think it's these things just did not happen the way she wants this court to believe they happened. People do not have the burden to suggest to this court what happened. The people have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that things happen the way that Ms. Thomas Greer says they happen, and I just don't think that they've done that. And so I am asking the court, just because there are so many holes. There are just too many holes here, too many things that just don't add up, and too many things that just don't make sense. That with this evidence that has been presented, Corporal, he's not there, he's just taking the report. Because there's not enough evidence that's been put forth to allow the people to sustain the people's burden of proof, and so I would ask the court to.
Any rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor. So, the people do agree with Separate Counsel that, people, Ms. Hall and Mr. Choice, the people that were present during this incident, will shed a little bit more light as to what happened on that day, Your Honor. But again, as the people brought to the court's attention, there's a lot of bias in the witnesses that we presented, Your Honor. Again, Ms. Robbins testified that she's known Ms. Hall, who is the girlfriend of Mr. Choice, for over 30 years. Ms. Robbins testified that she's known Mr. Smith for a while, and she testified that she was in a romantic relationship with Mr. Smith at this point. She testified that she didn't even observe anything, Your Honor. So again, I'm asking the court to take into consideration the testimony from the complaining witness who actually testified as to what happened. Ms. Robbins couldn't testify to what happened because she didn't see it. Ms. Robbins only comes to court with the, I guess, known information about what happened after this incident takes place, Your Honor. And she comes to court with having extensive relationships with Ms. Hall, Mr. Choice, and Ms. Smith. And I'm gonna ask the court to discredit her testimony because she does, it is a clear bias, Your Honor. She does have a long-standing relationship with these people. So of course she's gonna come to court and tell the court a complete opposite story than what Ms. Thomas Greer has told us, right, based off these relationships. So I'm gonna ask the court to take into consideration Ms. Thomas Greer's testimony. She told the court what happened on that day. She told the court how she came into contact with Mr. Smith. She told the court what happened after she came into contact with Mr. Smith. And she also told the court the truth, Your Honor, as to what happened on the day in question. And I'm gonna ask the court to take that into consideration. And I'm gonna ask the court to take Ms. Thomas Greer's testimony and apply it to the elements and the burden that the people have to prove. And I'm gonna ask the court to come back with this verdict for the assault pattern. Thank you.
Court has had an opportunity to review the charge against Mr. Smith, consider the testimony of the witnesses. The arguments of counsel. Makes the following findings of fact. So the people have burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about July 29, 2023, at or near the location of 2160 Mount Elliott Street in the city of Detroit, which is within the county of Wayne, that Elijah Warner Smith committed one count of assault or assault and battery upon Lynise Thomas Greer. In order to meet its burden, the people submitted 2 witnesses, 1 exhibit, and then the defense submitted in rebuttal, submitted 1 witness. So the court makes the following determination. Assessment of the testimony. of course, so I'll start backwards with the people's second witness who was not a fact witness. He was a after the fact witness to confirm that Ms. Thomas Greer came into the police department the next day. Came into the police department because the witness actually testified that he thought she came in to report an incident from that same day. And he took a report and he forwarded the report. And it was a report of an assault. So Ms. Thomas Greer testified that she went to this location approximately 5:30, stayed till sometime after 9 o'clock or 9:30, with a time in between where she left and returned. And then she went there by herself, and she was later joined by her husband and another friend, and then they left. And at some point during this evening, she approached Mr. Smith, asked to speak to him. Conversation didn't go as she wanted it to, or she didn't go well. And then, according to her testimony, she was pushed. She was approached from behind, she was grabbed from behind, she was kind of tussling with Mr. Smith. She tried to get loose and break away, she said. And then at some point, he pushes her into a petition, or she falls into a petition. And while this assault took place, she testified that there were two people standing near her, Crystal Hall and Machesa Choice, who she is friends with, have been friends with. Okay. So notwithstanding the defendant's witness, there were some things that probably didn't quite make sense to the court. And it has to do with these eyewitnesses. It has to do with the eyewitnesses. So I'm gonna come back around to the two people who were clearly said to be eyewitnesses by Ms. Thomas Greer. So later on, she said she, after the incident, she never saw Mr. Smith again. I believe that was the testimony. All right, so then the defense put forth a witness who was not an eyewitness also. Ms. Robbins was not an eyewitness. She testified that during the course of this evening, she saw Ms. Thomas Greer, that Ms. Thomas Greer appeared to her to be intoxicated, and that later on, she was being called outside based on a commotion, and then at some point, she removed a stapler from Ms. Thomas Greer's hand. Okay, so, yeah, it was interesting testimony, but for what it's worth, it didn't really add anything to the court's understanding of what happened in the situation. Now, I'm also gonna say, usually when people, somebody point a finger over here saying this person was drunk, and then other people point a finger and say this person was drunk, they was probably both drunk. So they probably was both drunk, or they was both hyper up or something. And then when Ms. Robbins testified and just would not concede, she wouldn't concede. Sometimes that's better for people not to testify, but she would not concede that Mr. Smith was upset, which if I just got into an altercation, whether it was my fault or not, I'm probably upset. Just admit that it's upset. Otherwise, I think you're making up stuff, right? You don't want to concede that the man was upset. He was upset. Now, whether he was upset because the lady was up in his face and doing whatever she was doing, and she was inebriated, the man was upset. Okay, so he was upset and she was upset. They were both upset. And it sounded like they were upset because Ms. Thomas Greer thought she was owed an apology for an assault that she says took place in 2022. Now let me just put my common sense and everyday experience right there. Ms. Thomas Greer is at this place. And at a certain point, her husband shows up. And her husband is at the place with her. And at no time while her husband is at the place with her, do she go confront Mr. Smith. Now, I was married for 24 years. And if I'm gonna confront a man about something he did inappropriate to me, it seemed like I would do it while my husband right there, because my husband gonna be like, Doc, what's up? My wife said this, that, and the third, and the fifth. And man, I'm a little feeling away because you put your hands on my wife. And so I'm just stepping to you, man, a man, to find out what happened in November. Because my wife said, you put your hands on her, and man, that ain't right. Okay, that's just, I'm paraphrasing by what I would expect from my husband. Okay, so her husband is at this event. While her husband is at this event, she never approaches Mr. Smith. Her husband leaves the event, she leaves the event. Now she comes back. She says throughout the whole night, she only had one cup of wine. I don't know how big the cup was, but she said she only had one cup of wine. And then she said, Mr. Smith was the one inebriated. Now I'm gonna put my common sense in right there. I'm gonna just use my common sense in every case. I'm a female. My husband is no longer at this party, and the man that I'm gonna accuse of assaulting me a few months ago is at the party and he drunk. Why would I approach a drunk man and tell a drunk man that I need an apology because you assaulted me last year? First of all, if I assaulted you last year, probably should have brought it up last year, but that's just me. Because Ms. Ritter asked a question that law school said you shouldn't ask because she didn't know the answer to the question when she said, have you seen him since that time? And she was hoping the question was gonna be no, which would have explained why she was just now bringing it up. But the answer to the question was yes. And I know y'all blew past that, but I caught it because I catch a lot of stuff. And so she said, yes, I seen him. So I seen him since November, but I didn't ask him for no apology before that. And then my husband was at the party, and I didn't ask him for an apology while my husband was at the party, but then I asked him at the end of the night, when I wasn't drunk, but he was. My common sense and everyday experience says that math ain't mathing. That math ain't just kind of mathing. So she says that she approached him. And then here's what I wrote on my paper. As the testimony has been developing, and as Ms. Ritter's argument has been developing, and as everybody agrees that the two eyewitnesses would have shed a lot of light on this situation, what I didn't hear is anything about any prior animosity between Ms. Thomas Greer and the witnesses, not Mr. Smith, but these eyewitnesses that she described as her friends. So we've been friends for however long years. I heard that they got friends because of Miss Robbins, who's been friends with the young lady for 30 years. But what I didn't hear is that there was animosity on this night between Miss Robbins and Miss Thomas Greer. So Miss Robbins is there, she owned the place, she said, y'all come on. And then Miss Thomas Greer come, they're friends, allegedly, based on testimony that I've heard. And then everybody is friends with Miss, with Miss Hall, and everybody's friends with Mr. Choice. So it sounded like the only two people that had some beef going on was Mr. Smith and Miss, I keep wanting to call her somebody else, and I think he was trying to say it, but Thomas Greer. And then these two people stood right by and watch a man who appears to be a tall man, a little, kind of, whatever. He's clearly greater in size and greater in weight than the witness. And he stood there and assaulted her in front of at least 2 other people that she was friends with. And not only did these friends not interfere, not only did the man who, if he is what he has been described to be in this courtroom, should be completely ashamed of himself as a man. So this man, who y'all say stood there and let this female be choked and slammed down, thrown into the thing. Not only did he not do anything, but he didn't even say anything. He didn't say, "Oh my God." He didn't say, "Man, what you doing?" He didn't say, stop, what's going on?" He said nothing. This grown man, who's supposedly friends with Miss Thomas Greer, stood by and let her be assaulted by a man, let alone a woman, by a man, and he didn't say nothing. He didn't say, stop it. Man, don't do that. He didn't do nothing. She said he didn't do nothing. He didn't grab him. He didn't do nothing. He just stood there and said, wow, he beating her up. And then the woman that was with her did the same thing. Now, I might not expect a female to interject, but to my surprise, Miss Thomas Greer said that's who interjected. She said after I was pushed into the thing, the female stepped in the middle and said, I'm not sure who she stepped in the middle for, because that was never clear. So, using my common sense everyday experience, I don't understand why 2 people that was eyewitness when subpoenas come. Most people, they might accept the subpoena, and then they might come and say, Judge, can I treat them as a hostile witness? Because they're not testifying the way I want to. That's what the whole hostile witness courtroom is for people who come to court based on a subpoena, but they don't, try to say what they saw. And then that's why you have cross-examination and all that. And we cannot assume that these people would have been biased in any way, because there has been nothing shown on this record that these people were biased in any way. So and then my final observation is that I was assaulted for the second time by a man. And as a result of this assault, I did not leave the party and go to the police. I did not call 911. I did not go get my husband to come back up to the party. When I went to the police department the next day, my husband, who was at the party, now this is the second time this man laying his hands on me, and my husband did not go to the police department with me. He didn't show up with me. The officer said she came by herself. She gave a report, and that was that. That math don't seem like it's mathing. It don't seem like it adds up. It doesn't seem like my common sense and everyday experience is telling me that it happened the way it was described to me as happening. And so for those reasons, the court is going to find Mr. Smith. Now you have the easiest name, and I still had to look at the file. That's, whew, okay. Court is going to find Mr. Smith not guilty of assault or assault and battery. I do not believe that people have met their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Sir, we're going to give you a copy of that order of dismissal for your records. Anything else?
No, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and we're all set. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe. It's 1:05. And my question is, Ms. Gibson, what time I got on that?
I think it's just pre-trying, so.
But are they, Do we know if these are second time pretrial? Or everybody else can go, I mean, it's over, if you wanna talk to Ms. Reader, wait in the hall. You can wait in the hall too, ma'am. Yes, you can wait in the hall too, wait in the hall.
Mayor, these were adjourned.
But were they all adjourned for the same time, or were any of them second time pretrials? Okay, so you saying let's just log back in at, hold on, I ain't want them all going out that thing. The man didn't get his order, I told him to wait for his order.
I mean, I will be ready to put everything on the record no later than 2:00.
Cause you're not taking a lunch break?
No.
I'm taking.
Well, we are, I am too.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that